has threatened Russia with a military strike after claiming that Moscow is developing banned cruise missiles. U.S. Ambassador to NATO Kay Bailey Hutchison said that Russia is building medium-range ballistic missiles, and that's in violation of the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. She said Washington remains committed to a diplomatic solution, but it is ready to consider a military strike if Moscow does not halt its activity. Russian Foreign Ministry slammed the U.S. envoy's remarks as aggressive and destructive. It added that Washington will get a detailed response from Moscow's military experts. The U.S. claims Russia is developing a ground launch system in breach of a Cold War treaty that allows Russia to launch a nuclear strike on Europe, but Moscow has strongly denied the allegation. Joining us now out of Madison, Wisconsin is James H. Fetzer, Professor Emeritus out of the University of Minnesota, Duluth. Hello, Professor. It's a pleasure to have you back on the program, sir. Your thoughts on Washington's, threatening antics towards Moscow?
The states confront several problems here. They're objecting to what they take to be intermediate-range missiles that are supposed to be banned by this treaty. But the United States isn't honoring treaties. It pulled out of the Iranian nuclear deal, so that's one problem. A second problem is that they actually seem to be concerned about the fact that the Russians are developing a missile for which the United States has no defense. In particular, they have an intercontinental range nuclear-powered cruise missile capable of penetrating any interceptor-based missile defense system. Capabilities seem to be that of a supersonic missile with unlimited range and ability to dodge missile defenses. This is the real problem for the United States. The Russians have superior military equipment with which the United States cannot deal. The problem, I think, in the case of this particular hysterical reaction by the NATO spokesperson for the United States is that she was clearly talking about a preemptive strike on Russia. And of course, under the United Nations Charter, there are only two conditions under which a preemptive strike is permissible, namely when a nation confronts an imminent threat or when it's actually, subject to an attack, neither of which is obtaining here. So there's an awkward situation. She overstepped. She tried to wind it back. And I think it's been a bit of a political fiasco for the United States.
And you mentioned the Iran nuclear deal, but aside from that, I mean, if we're talking about missiles and just nuclear stuff, the U.S. has not abided by a lot of nuclear treaties itself. It's helped, I don't want to talk about an apartheid regime in the Middle East, build up a nuclear arsenal of 200 plus, unreported, undocumented, a covert nuclear stockpile on Palestinian, occupied territory. And even itself, ex-president, former president, Barack Obama, he got a Nobel Peace Prize for disarmament, and then now we have the new regime and the administration of Donald Trump ready to revamp the entire U.S. nuclear arsenal, and here we are threatening Russia.
One of the most interesting aspects of this article is from Russian sources, of course, RT, is that it reports in a tweet about here the United States is out whipping up hysteria without checking on the 200 to 400 nuclear missiles in the Israeli stockpile. The whole world knows. This means the United States hypocrisy is on display here for everyone to see. It's a bit of a joke. I'm sorry to say, Barack Obama most certainly did not deserve the Nobel Peace Prize, and there's no reason to believe that Donald Trump might receive one, though he's hoping, I think, on the outside that his work with North Korea might come to fruition, but it looks to me like it's really the North and the South Korea negotiating between themselves, letting the United States have played a role in initiating this, but carrying it on themselves. That might be deserving of recognition, more so certainly than any act perpetrated by his predecessor, Barack Obama. But I think that this case is really quite striking because the United States, frankly, doesn't have the military capability to deal with the superb modern weapons that are possessed by Russia, anti-ship missiles, anti-aircraft missiles, these new intercontinental ballistic missiles. The United States just doesn't have the defenses to deal with them, and I think this is what's led to this frustration and hysteria from a spokesman for the United States.
Thank you once again for joining us on the program, Professor Fetzer. James H. Fetzer.